Okay, we have to acknowledge that the crypto market is suffering right now, but we are not fair weather fans. And actually now's a pretty good time to release this video because the price of the asset that we're going to be discussing is down versus where it was a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago. We are looking at Ethereum, ticker ETH, ETH. And of course, there was a lot of enthusiasm, at least immediately on the heels of the SEC approval of those Ethereum spot ETFs. But it seems that enthusiasm has expired because the market frankly, is bleeding right now and things are looking very, very red. It's been an ugly few days. But really that just means it's probably a good time to take stock. Maybe load up on some of your favorite projects if they've been hit especially violently recently. And today we're asking that question that we've been asking in a long series of videos now. Exactly how many Ether do you need to purchase today at current market values in order to cash in at the height of this crypto bull run and be a millionaire? Welcome to the channel. My name is Maddie and this is Altcoin Buzz. All the best of luck if you choose to invest. As always, whether that's into Ethereum, other altcoins, I wish you very, very well. Just remember that I'm not a financial or investment advisor. And by extension, of course, this video is not official financial or investment advice. So as we record today, the price of Ethereum, along with the rest of the market, by the way, is not looking great, but just keep in mind that those ETFs that have been approved by the SEC have not started trading yet. So we should expect to see a pump once that active trading begins. Just keep that in mind. In the context of how much Ethereum we need here, let's take a look at ETH's historical performance. This is what we're evaluating to get an answer to the question, how much Ether do you need today to become a millionaire? So just a little bit of context here. Ethereum launched on the 30th of July, 2015, almost 9 years ago. That certainly makes it a crypto OG. Back in those days, if you recall, maybe you were around, we actually had ICOs. And it's been a while since I've used that acronym. Of course, it stands for Initial Coin Offering. This actually started on the 22nd of June and lasted until the 2nd of September, 2014. And during this ICO, 1 Ether went for 31 cents. So putting that into perspective here, if you bought $100 worth of ETH back in the day and you managed to hold on to them, you would actually be a millionaire right now on the sole basis of that $100 investment. The broad picture here shows us that ETH first peaked in January 2018. That's when it went from $10 to $1,448. So pretty well done if you were able to hold on back in those days. But then, of course, it crashed again back to $135. And then we had a pretty long period of time, about 3 years before it saw its next peak. That was in 2021 when Ether actually experienced 2 peaks. The first was in May of that year. It hit $4,182. And then next up was actually its all-time high in November, $4,878. Now, like I said, we're down from that high water mark. The current price of ETH as I record sits just above $3,300. But you still have to appreciate the fact that we've come a long way from 31 cents to $3,300. That's a factor of 10,000 if my quick math is right. Of course, Ethereum is also the second coin ranked by market cap after Bitcoin, with a market cap currently of $406.7 billion. Now, there is an unlimited supply of Ether, but there's also a pretty good burning mechanism in place. In 2022, Ethereum switched from a POW or proof of work chain to a POS or proof of stake chain. That was the so-called merge upgrade. And then as a result, it even became deflationary for a short period of time. Today, the current total and circulating supply is around 122 million ETH coins. And altogether, there are a couple of points to consider here, not the least of which is the fact that ETH had a first mover advantage with smart contracts, a massive ecosystem, L2s, and most recently, spot ETFs. Those are some of the advantages and some of the benefits, characteristics, if you want to call them, of Ethereum. And so its future as a project looks good. I think it's almost imminent and inevitable that new all-time highs are looming on the horizon. But look, if you were to have a different opinion and you were to criticize mine, you could call me optimistic. That's fair as long as you justify your point of view. If that's the case, let me know what you think about all-time highs when it comes to Ether, whether or not we're going to achieve a new one in this bull cycle. Like I said, I think the chances of that are very, very high, but nothing is absolute in this space. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below.
Listen up if you're watching this as a trader, because we have a great find for you. We found an exchange that gives you the best of both worlds. Want to trade spot markets on over 400 trading pairs without KYC? Now you can. Want to trade perpetual markets with over 150 trading pairs with KYC? You can also do that. The only exchange that we've seen in the market that lets you do both simple spot trading without KYC and perps trading with KYC globally is BYDFi. And along with the great fees and almost no slippage on trade orders, you also get up to $8,698 in bonuses for trying BYDFi, along with a free month of our money-making Altcoin Buzz Alpha service just for giving BYDFi a try. Again, you are getting our flagship Altcoin Buzz Alpha service free for a month. Check out BYDFi by clicking the link in the description of this video below.
Let's consider now a little bit of technical analysis and look at what the ETH charts have to say. This is courtesy of our technical analyst, so shout out and kudos to Randy for providing this. But really the current chart situation is a classic cup and handle pattern. To put this in perspective, there have been more than 1,000 of these patterns. So look, while no pattern is 100%, a cup and handle is an accumulation pattern, and the break of the 4,090 level would be a potential breakout. That's where the asset moves quickly through this level, ideally on heavy volume. That's always more favorable. And so that price point particularly, $4,090, that's going to be the key to knowing whether or not the next cycle is beginning for Ethereum, if and when we break above that. And let's consider some precedents here by looking at the breakout that we saw in October and November of 2020. The volume at that time was much heavier through the point of resistance. And this was a small cup and handle breakout, not nearly as large as the one we have now, but the result could very well be similar. Van Eck sees ETH at $22,000 by the year 2030. Do we agree with this sentiment and this forecast? The short answer is yes, Ethereum will hit $20,000 and probably more. But the hard part is determining when precisely that's going to happen. If we stay super basic here, however, and just use a very simple method, like a top trend line, it does actually start to look pretty good because that would suggest a December 2025 date for that $20,000. It could get there, in other words, by December 2025. And if this trend line breaks to the upside, then actually $40,000 to $50,000 per Ether becomes possible, especially once you start factoring in momentum and enthusiasm and that FOMO frenzy vibe that's super characteristic of these rallies. So yes, we are optimistic in the longer term price point of ETH. However, if many people want to cash out their profits, the fact is we could see a lower price of ETH. The lower range of this estimate would be closer to $13,000. All right, so let's answer that question. How much Ethereum do you need to purchase today in order for that to be worth $1 million at the height of the bull cycle and beyond, based on some of these estimates that we're describing here? Like I said, the prospects for Ethereum all around fundamentally are looking very, very good. And as a reminder, once those spot ETFs start trading, we should see a pretty solid and a pretty rapid uptick in the price of Ether. Let's consider that December 2025 date I mentioned a moment ago, and let's assume Ethereum hits $20,000 at that time. That actually makes for some pretty simple math because the goal in terms of total value that we're trying to achieve is $1 million. So let's divide $1 million by a $20,000 Ethereum. That gives us the number of ETH that we require, which in this case is 50. So you're going to need 50 Ether at $20,000 a piece to achieve $1 million. Simple math, 50 times 20,000. Let's play out the optimistic scenario for a moment and assume hypothetically that ETH goes even higher. That may take a few more years, maybe 2 or 3 years later down the road, possibly more, but let's consider a $40,000 Ether. If we divide $1 million by that figure, once again, pretty simple math, we're going to need 25 ETH at $40,000 a piece to have $1 million worth of Ether. Again, if each ETH token is worth $40,000. So now we have to consider the price of acquisition. If we're trying to acquire 25 ETH, that will one day be worth $40,000. Let's buy 25 ETH at the current price, which, as I mentioned, is $3,300. Just doing a quick multiplication here, 25 ETH times $3,300 a piece would cost us $82,500. So that is the dollar figure that you would need to spend today in order to acquire 25 ETH at current market prices. And that's the best case scenario, right? That's assuming those 25 ETH are worth $40,000 one day. Let's be a little bit more conservative here and consider that long-term Ether price of $20,000. So as we just saw with the math, you would need 50 Ethereum at $20,000 to be a crypto millionaire in Ether. But if we take that figure, 50, right, that's the number of ETH we require. We multiply that by current prices. Market prices are $3,300 per ETH. 50 of those would cost us $165,000. So look, still very expensive, certainly, but if you are a long-term believer in this ecosystem and in this project, the payoff could certainly be there in a few years' time. And then, of course, don't forget, you can stake that as you go as well. Let me know if I'm being too optimistic or too conservative. Where do you think the all-time high of Ethereum is going to go, not only in this bull cycle, but beyond? Ethereum is one of my largest holdings. It's one of my favorite projects. So I am certainly curious to hear your thoughts about this one.
And so if this market pulls back hard under this level and then consolidates and comes back, we're likely to sell and stall.